Hello and welcome to Mom's Bookshelf, Nurturing Motherhood Through Literature. Here we speak to mom authors, maternal mental health life coaches, and delve into their mindsets. What do they have to contribute to this world? Because as moms, we have a 24/7 duty. But apart from that, if there are moms who are working, they're working so hard and they are working towards their goals, I think that should be appreciated. And that is the reason we have this podcast for celebrating those mom authors and those mom life coaches who are doing wonderful work in their own arenas. So today we have with us a very enigmatic personality, Miss Asma Zaidi. Welcome to our podcast. Let me tell you about Miss Asma Zaidi. So she is obviously a mom. And as I said, that being a mom is a 24/7 job, but she's a keynote speaker. She has authored several books and several research papers pertaining to child development, child education, women empowerment, and a lot more in the field of child education. So she's a keynote speaker and she has served 25 years as in the teaching industry, as vice principal, as principal. But I'm really wondering, she looks like 25-year-old herself. Uh, she has been doing a wonderful work tremendously. So I really wonder what an exuberant amount of energy you possess, because you are also involved in a PhD research. You are also doing your PhD, and we would like to know more about the topic that you are working, because the kind of work that you are doing, it is really, really inspirational. Apart from that, I think we are also going to delve into her initiative, which is called Let's Read Education Initiative. And for that, she has also received, she has been recognized, she has been awarded as 1,000 Women of Asia Award. So you have a lot more inside you, and we would like to dig into your brain, what all goes into your brain. So first of all, we would like to know, what is the secret of your energy? How do you manage motherhood, teaching, parenting, and speeches, writing, and all that you've been doing, and you are setting an example for so many ladies. So what is the secret sauce that you follow?
Shabina, for that wonderful introduction. I don't know if I'm deserving of it, but thank you for the introduction. So I think as a mother and as a person, people have different personalities and they have different personality types. I think I'm a very logical, practical person. I'm not very emotional. I have a lot of empathy, and I gel with people a lot. My PR is really, really good, but I'm not overly emotional. I don't get bogged down, and I'm very focused. I'm very channelized. I'm very focused. And I also, I think one of the things which helps me in my career is that I do things like in my early years, I used to be a little impulsive, but now over a period of time, I've grown older, I've grown wiser, I hope. And so I don't take impulsive decisions, but I take quick decisions. And I get what I want. Like, I go for it. I don't think too much about it. So I think, and I make an intention, this is what I'm going to do, and I do it. And then once I make the intention, it doesn't matter. Whatever, because I know the minute I make an intention, there's going to be a hurdle. There's going to be something that stops me. For example, just a simple thing, like if I want to do this podcast and I have made the intention of doing this podcast, something is going to happen. The traffic is going to be bad that day, or we are going to get sick, or something happens which puts a break to your intention. So I think I've learned to overcome those intentions, overcome those hurdles. And I think that's how. And also, I think once your work is your passion, when you are passionate about what you do, and your work and your passion are the same, I think that's the secret of success.
So you realize that your mantra is to keep going. So
yeah, and to keep going, and to work and do something that you like. Like,
absolutely,
you're passionate about children. I'm very, very passionate about education, about reading. And I think that's what keeps me going. Like I wake up and
Right.
I have to do stuff.
Right. And when you said that you have a passion of education, so you've started this initiative called Let's Read India. So what is it and how did it get started? So what was your ikigai for this, for starting this Let's Read?
Yeah. So actually, I think one of the things is that your interests and things, they come from childhood. So I grew up in a family of academicians, and I've always heard about psychology and child development, and those are the things that I've grown up with, right? So I was very comfortable with those things, and somehow they come to me naturally, probably because I grew up with them. My mother was also a teacher. So, but when I came to India, I moved to India in 2010. When I came here, I was already a Montessori teacher. I was already B.Ed. I was already a teacher. And I started my first job in a library because I couldn't find employment anywhere else. And I was very, very keen that my children have to go to a library. They have to read books. They have to become readers. And so I took my children. I used to make that effort of going to a library very far away. And there they gave me the offer of teaching children how to read because I used to come and sit there and they knew that I was a teacher. So they said, "Aap kyun nahi padhate ho? Like, why don't you get the children to read?" And that's how it started. And I got to know that children from even very good schools are not able to read. So I started having waiting lists, like 6 months, 8 months waiting list. And my classes were full. I started taking 2 slots. Then I started taking 3 slots. I started working on weekends, but the lists kept growing and there were still waiting lists. So that's when I realized that this is something that is bigger than I thought. It's not just a phonics class. It's bigger. And then slowly, things started adding. People started saying, "Why don't you write a book? You're not able to give time. There is only one person who can teach. So why don't you write a book so that it's helpful for the parents?" And that's how I wrote my first book on reading, on phonics. And then it just kind of, as the need came and the project grew, I started solving the problems. And that's how it turned into a proper company. So now Let's Read is a private limited company.
Well, that's wonderful, Asma. But then this also arises a question in my mind since there are already so many educational programs. So how do you think that Let's Read has a different edge over the programs?
See, I think first of all, most of the reading programs are designed and curated for native speakers, right? I think one of the biggest differences is that over a period of time, I have been able to design Let's Read according to the need of Asian children. Mostly, I'd say Asian, where children have English as a second language. So I understand where children are coming from and that they are not native speakers. They don't speak English at home. And being an educator, it helps me to put two and two things together, right? And also the second thing is that over a period of time, I've been working with Let's Read for 10 years. And now after the National Education Policy came in, I was able to see that all the elements that National Education Policy says, they fit into Let's Read. And that was my aha moment. Okay, the work that I've done is really worth something because it is matching to National Education Policy and Nipun Bharat Policy. So that is one thing. And second thing is that also whenever I see different programs, I don't want to take names, but when I see different programs, they teach children how to read words and they teach children how to spell, but they're not teaching children how to read sentences. I think this is where the difference is. Our program is structured in such a way that we teach them not just words, but also how to mix sight words and phonetic words together to make sentences, to make paragraphs. And at every level, we have done the same progression so that even in LKG, a child is reading a paragraph. It's a 3-letter word paragraph, but he's reading a paragraph. So it's progressive and it's designed for children who are learning English as a second language.
That is really, really wonderful. I think that's very intriguing. It's not only as trainers or teachers. I think even as parents, we can go for this program. So, yeah, I feel that since every kid has a right to education, so nowadays I've been seeing this problem amongst kids that they're not able to read properly, or maybe they're kids with special needs. So does this program also cater to to kids with special needs?
Yes, absolutely. We have, in my school, I have a whole department for children with special needs, and I've written a lot of research papers on children with special needs. Actually, the whole idea is that reading, when you give them a book to read, because that's how you teach reading. Like you generally in India, you follow the old traditional method of learning ABC and spelling CAT, cat, LEG, like even if you're doing phonics, the idea is that children are reading from books and writing in order to read, they are writing. So they are writing A, they are writing BAG bag. So they are mixing up both the things. So my program has a lot of hands-on activities. It is a lot of kinesthetic activities which are done with the children. And obviously with special needs children, their whole disabilities, especially for children who are dyslexic, like who are not able to read properly, the whole problem is that they are not able to orient the words and they're not able to read text. So when you're using 3D material and you're using things like clay and you're using activities, you have sorted the problem of reading through books. You're not reading with books. You're reading through different material. So like this, we have many different strategies. And for the past 5 years, we have seen that it's working really well with children with special needs. And also we have seen that the program has gone to different places, some private tutors in the Middle East, Africa, it's going to Africa. It's already started in Africa. So we have seen that over a range of countries and continents, wherever children are required to read English as a second language, they're able to read it. And children with special needs also, if you give me an extra minute, I would like to explain that children with special needs, especially dyslexia, it has a lot to do with obviously the brain and the way the brain is wired, but also it has a lot to do with development and growth. So one of the reasons that children are finding learning difficult, whether it is English or it is whatever it is, one of the reasons is lack of movement. So if the growth and development milestones are met properly and children are moving and are having the right kind of movements according to their milestones, I think this problem can decrease.
Wow, I think, you are so much focused and you are working in this one field. You have an enormous amount of knowledge pertaining to this field about, something that you said about dyslexia, that it is related to movement. I think I've read about dyslexia, but I didn't know this thing. So I really feel as parents, as teachers, as trainers, we should delve into this program, learn more about it, because you've been a researcher. You're also writing papers related to this kind of an education. So Asma, you've also written books related to Let's Read initiative that you've started. So what are these books about, and how do they help students? Could you tell more about these books? Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, yes, I've authored school books, readers and activity books like you have as a part of your curriculum. And in India till now, and I think most of the Asian countries that follow the Indian curriculum, pre-primary does not have any set curriculum for English learning or whatever for books. Pretty much the schools are flexible to use what they want. So yes, I have written books for nursery, LKG, UKG, class 1, and now class 2. The foundation years, I have written school books so that it is easy for parents also to work with children. And the difference in the books is that the approach is very functional. Like there's a lot of, in the nursery books, there's a lot of focus on listening and speaking more than reading, because once you have to develop phonological awareness in order to read. So the books are exactly like the Let's Read curriculum is. So it's like putting the curriculum into a book. So it works with classroom materials. It's a whole program. But yes, I've written books for schools, foundation years.
Wow, that is a wonderful initiative. And I think that's really, really going to help students and even the teachers in teaching. That is really...
I really hope the books, I'm waiting to hear the feedback from schools, but I really hope they take it off.
Wow. I hope that you do, enormous amount of work in this regard. And I think, yes, the world needs people like you who delve into a subject and they come out with all kind of research related to one particular subject, and which is the need of the hour, I think. Yeah. And as a, as a trainer, you've been a trainer, you have been a teacher, you have been in touch with numerous students, you've been in touch with parents, you've been in touch with teachers, and you also training them. So if we amalgamate your all the roles, now what is an advice that you would like to give our viewers who are raising an alpha generation? Like if I speak about myself, I have kids from belonging to alpha generation, and now in this digital world, it really becomes something. It's not an easy task to manage kids. So, what is your advice to parents who are raising kids in this generation?
My advice would be that even though your children are alpha generation kids and they are growing in this digital era, but if you see the evolution of man, and if you see how man has changed and progressed, and what the basic needs of a human being are, of a human child, then those needs, Shabina, have not changed for the past 50,000 years. Okay? So a human child, still like a tiger cub, still needs to run, still drinks milk from its mother, still needs to run into the wild. A tiger cub who is in a cage is different from a tiger cub in a jungle, right? They still run, they still need space to move, they still have to hunt with their mother, they still learn to hunt. Similarly, a human child, whether he is born in this digital era or he is born 500 years ago or 50 years ago before the independence, the human need is the same. So children still need to move, they still need to crawl, they still need to run around. A child is capable of walking 2 miles. A baby, I'm talking about a 2-year-old, is capable of walking that much. A child is capable of carrying weight. A child is capable of working with his hands. A child learns from experiences in the environment. That's how it was 100, 200, 300, 50 years, 50,000 years ago also, right? The same thing still apply to human children in this age. So my advice would be, go natural. Anything that is unnatural, don't do it. For example, don't use bottled milk, because believe it or not, breastfeeding is connected to your speech. So people who don't breastfeed, those children have speech issues. I'm not saying all of them, but most of them do. And one of the reasons is that the sucking reflex allows your muscles to contract and move and develop so that they're able to speak and take out noises, right? So breastfeeding is natural. Go with breastfeeding. Don't pump milk and give it to a child in a bottle. You think you're giving the same antibodies, but it's not about antibodies. It's also about sucking the milk, right? Don't go for a cesarean. Have a natural birth. Don't be a queen when you are pregnant. Be normal. Do all the work. Have a normal lifestyle. Have normal movements so that you have a natural delivery. You go for natural things. Eat natural food. Don't eat too much processed food. Eat natural things. Let your children grow naturally. Don't put them in walkers. Don't put them in car seats. Believe it or not, I'm thinking of writing a research paper on this. But even when you put a child on a car seat, a baby is supposed to be flat, right? The kind of movements that a baby has are supposed to be on the back. But when you put a child in the car seat, you're making him sit, which is unnatural.
Right.
So even those things, if child is sitting in a car seat for long periods of time, 2-3 hours, that's minute, 5 minutes, it's okay. But when you're driving for a long period and you have a child on a car seat who's sitting straight, it's unnatural. So anything that is logically, the simplest formula is anything which is unnatural, avoid it. Go for natural things. Let children run, let them play, let them be in the mud, let them eat, let them, use their fingers, use their mouths, no screens. I think even before mobile phones, people were able to do parenting. So I'm sure now also people will be able to do parenting without the mobile phones. Let your children eat naturally with their own hands. Let them not see screens for being fed, right? So do everything that is natural and avoid anything that is artificial. I think that would be my biggest advice. Let children run, let them play, let them explore, let them have natural cognitive stimulation, get them associated and connected to nature. And I think they'll be just fine.
So yes, in a gist, we can say that when it comes to parenting, I think we should take our brains back to the times and learn from our grandmothers and great grandmothers what was that doing. Yes, really. So would you like to tell us about your research, because I'm so much intrigued to know about what kind of research you are doing, because you have such a great knowledge pertaining to child care, parenting, and the tips that you've been giving us. So what is your research about?
So my research is on foundational literacy. I'm doing my PhD in education, and it's about my Let's Read program and the kinesthetic kits that I'm creating, and how using the how reading can be done in a playway method in the classroom instead of all the time doing it through books and blackboard. So if you do introduce reading as a play to a child through different kind of pedagogies, you can use toys, you can use those magnets, movement of hand, movement. I think for children the key is movement. So if you make them sit still, yes, as they grow older, they will be able to do it. But for a small child, movement is natural. So if they're able to do movement in reading also, it will be acquired better. And I think language is functional. So language should be acquired as functionally as a whole language. You cannot do it in bits and pieces. Have you ever heard anybody, for example, learn Arabic if you teach them Alif Ba Ta Sa? You cannot. That's not how you learn how to speak in Arabic. You learn how to speak in Arabic by talking in Arabic, by listening to Arabic, right? That's the way you learn English, by listening to English, by speaking in English, right? So, so my PhD is all about kinesthetic activities and playway methods to make reading fun, and introducing English as a second language, and making sure that the children are not stressed with reading. I have also invented, I don't know what other word to use. I've made a diagnostic tool which assesses reading age of a child, which is, I don't think anybody has done that for pre-primary children. We have Shonell's test and a lot of other tools which are there for children above 6 years. But we don't have anything to assess reading for children between 3 to 6 years. So we give them a reading age. So for example, the child is 5 years old, but his reading age is 4.2 or maybe even more than 5.4, right? So that reading age allows the teacher to set a goal for the child, and enables the teacher to quantify the reading, which is not tangible, but quantify it so that they're able to track the progress of reading. As the child, over a period of time, you will be able to generate a lot of data, like how many children are reading, how fast the children have moved, which children are not showing progress, why are they not showing progress, which teacher's class is making better progress than the others. So when you put things down in numbers, it's easy to collect data. So I think reading age really is a helpful tool for schools and for research also, for purpose of research also, to show that this thing works. It's easy when you have it in numbers.
So, Asma, I think with your talk, it has sparked neurons in my brain, and they are making connections, because I'm hearing some things for the very first time. I'm a mom and I'm parenting my kids, but there's so many new things that I've learned with your this session. And I wish you all the best with your with your research, with your Let's Read initiative. For more details, for our viewers, we are going to give all the details about your program in the description box so that they can reach out to you on your Instagram, on your LinkedIn account.